Hi, welcome to Rocket and Metal Invasion. My name is Steve. So today I'm going to do another magazine recap. This time I'm going to be looking at Kerrang magazine number 150 from 1987. So when I did Metal Forces, I was also looking at a magazine from 1987. So I thought, oh, let's do another different magazine, but also use the year 1987. So Kerrang is quite a well-known magazine. Now this, I think, came out weekly. I think initially it was every fortnightly, and then it changed to weekly. Around about 87, I think, sometime like that. Let's have a look through here. See if there's any matchups with some of the things we saw in the Metal Forces magazine. Um, this magazine, quite a few pages, 56, but not as much information in it. Metal Forces was I think once a month. So it didn't come out as much as Kerrang, which is, like I said, I think at this point it's coming out every week. You're talking about Anthrax there and their tour. I was interested in the news start of the magazine. They'd have some news things here. So things like, new bands that have signed with labels. At the time, you hear about a band like Vamp, for example, and you wouldn't know who they were. But of course, now looking back, it's like, oh, yes, I know Vamp, yes. And I know Crocus signed with the MCA, and I think that's when they put out Heart Attack. But this was quite interesting. So this is about Quiet Riot and how they have changed vocalist. And here's what Carlos Cavazo has said about Kevin DeBro basically being fired from the band. It's not often the vocalist gets fired. Kevin created so much negativity towards Quiet Riot with his attitude, it began to hurt our careers, and it was time for action. I know he's claimed that we couldn't fire him because he never worked for us, but let's just say he's out and we're glad to be rid of him. In the end, Kevin sapped our energy, adds Carlos. Do you know why we haven't appeared in England for so long? Simply because Kevin wouldn't come over for personal reasons. What those personal reasons were. Anyway, and then they're talking about Chuck Wright. They had to get rid of Chuck Wright as well. Chuck was in a position where he didn't have much of an income from the band and wanted a salary, something we couldn't arrange because we were not earning money ourselves at the moment. Anyway, he began to moonlight with other bands without telling us, and when we found out about it, he was sacked. Yeah. He does appear in a lot of, around this time, he does appear, Chuck Wright, he does seem to be in a lot of bands, or has been in a lot of bands. So Rudy Sarzo there is back in Quiet Riot, and of course he's back in Quiet Riot again. The only member from the 80s, Quiet Riot, who is now still in Quiet Riot. They're touring. But Jizzy Pearl's on the vocals. Yeah, not sure. I'm the finish up guys, I think, but I don't know. I don't know about these guys either. Wild Strawberries, never heard of them. Some more news here. Malmsteen was in a car crash. I remember hearing about that. It said it's only minor injuries, so I thought it was a bit more than that. I heard it was kind of bad, but oh well. There you go. He was okay. Um, Running Wild. It's an unusual gimmick, isn't it? To be pirates. The hotline. Not sure what happens when you ring that number. You get news or you listen to music. Sure. Michael Bolton. Now, I'm a big fan of the first two Michael Bolton albums. This is talking about the hunger, which is when he got just a bit too soft on that one. But of course, that was the album that he had a hit with Dock of the Bay, and then albums after that, Soul Provider, that was massive for him. But yeah, the first two albums though are actually really good hard rock, which is kind of what it's talking about here. That those first couple of albums are actually really good. Um, Interesting that this album, yep, it's getting a write up in Kerrang, but yeah, he's becoming more of a pop guy. Motley Crue, 7-inch single and 12-inch single, advertised. Girls, girls, girls. But ads taking up quite a bit of space here. That's 2 pages there just on ads. I'm never a big fan of this part of the magazine. View from the bar. I don't know. Pictures are okay, but usually I didn't find the information that interesting. Shades, that was sounds like that was a pretty awesome record shop back in the day. I don't think it's going anymore. It used to be one of the go-to places back in the 80s. That's just Dan Bush. He has his most well-known song is "The Touch," which is on the album that he's promoting here. But he's not talking about that song. He's talking about "Love Don't Lie" as one of the next singles, which I think ends up appearing on the House of Lords album too. And then also Danish band, I think they're Danish, Fate. And one of the guys from this band ends up in King Diamond, which is quite unusual. XE, they were advertised in the Metal Forces magazine. Oh, this was quite interesting. Patti Smythe, now she was the singer for Scandal. It says here she almost replaced David Lee Roth in Van Halen. I don't remember hearing about that, but she talks about it here. Now, unfortunately, they've put a little picture there, which makes it actually quite hard to read. But basically, she says it's true that she was almost the vocalist for Van Halen. Eddie asked me to join Van Halen when David Lee Roth left, but the thing was, I was 8 months pregnant at the time, and it would have meant moving to California, and I guess the time just wasn't right. I was also committed to doing a solo album at that point, an album which I really wanted to do. And I wasn't sure I wanted to leave everything and go right into another situation. So there we go, eh? Instead of Sammy Hagar, it could have been Patti Smythe. Van Smythe? Yeah. Anyway, pretty good compilation. Time to rock. Live reviews. We'll just move through some of this pretty quickly. I always enjoy the record reviews. Dr. Pussycat, they got four. No, they got five. 5K, so five is the maximum. Kind of thing it says here is Faster Pussycat and Guns N' Roses have got this fun degeneration business all sewn up. Not so much Faster Pussycat in the end, but Guns N' Roses, yeah. Envy, Ain't It a Sin? That was reviewed in Metal Forces. I remember that. That's the album produced by Dee Snider. And the review here for the Twisted Sister album as well, coming up. Love is for Suckers, Police Academy. That was big back in the 80s. I remember seeing those movies back in the 80s. So, yeah, Love is for Suckers. For some reason, it's been given 3 with 1K, 3Ks, 1K in brackets. I actually really like that album, but I know it's not one of the more popular ones. I also, John Waite, Rover's Return. I like that album. I mean, some good songs on there. Some Desmond Child wrote These Times Are Hard for Lovers. Good song. More album reviews, yeah. Um, another, isn't another ad for White Lion and their album Pride. So that was also advertised on the Metal Forces magazine. Aerosmith, Basics Live. I mean, only got 2Ks. Steve Jones from the Sex Pistols, his debut solo album. The album he released after this, I think, is better. More hard rocking, anyway. Advertising some thrash bands there. So Pandora Peroxide, she was in the comic, and she had a, this is like a comic, and it was in the magazine each issue. I wasn't really into that very much. Uh, Never heard of these guys. I don't think more pop than rock. Um, Death Fine. So this was a bit more heavy than what I was. Bands in this section of the magazine usually were the thrash or speed metal bands, so I wasn't into it that much back in the day. But interesting looking at it now. Don Kay writes this, and he's written here about Morbid Angel. Now this is 1987, so their debut didn't come out until 1989. And it says here, another band that falls into this trap occasionally but stays afloat are Morbid Angel. He's talking about the trap, but I think it's the trap he's talking about is I don't know, I'm not quite sure. Playing playing too fast or something. I'm not sure, but anyway, um, they've been around for about 2 years, and I've been hearing material from this bunch for some time. And although they too get lost in a blur of speed, yeah, there we go. So yeah, playing too fast. They they pace their material with enough time changes and extremely heavy riffs to hold interest. They recorded an album which never got released. So yeah, so that album it didn't get released, but it did eventually get released in '91. And the last thing I have from them is a 3-song, good quality rehearsal tape that reminds one of a cross between Celtic Frost and Possessed. I just hope they don't fall into the speed trap. They're working on a new demo now. There we go, Morbid Angel being talked about before they actually released an album. An ad for Celtic Frost. They were also in the Metal Forces magazine, and they had an ad. They also got 0 out of 100 on the album review. All right, so halfway through now, but yeah, like again, here's some more ads, so we'll just zip through this. But for me, not as good, nowhere near as good as Metal Forces. But to be fair, it does come out, every week, so yeah, and it's probably cheaper. It's cheaper to buy than Metal Forces, I think. And yeah, you can see a lot of filler here. Like, I mean, it's interesting the singles and the album charts, I suppose, play people's playlists, but yeah, a lot of filler, a lot of stuff you just go over. 100. So this is because they're at issue 150. They've reviewed their top 100 songs. Quite interesting what they think are the top 100 songs, and they've given the top 100 for as of issue 150, and then also what they thought was the top 100 songs when they did issue 100 and when they did issue 50. A lot of Rosie is the number one song, and it's still the number one song. We go up here on issue 150. Stairway to Heaven number two, Metallica number three. Changed quite a bit though from issue 100. We had Stargazer Rainbow. Animal If Like a Beast was number 9 on issue 100, but I can't even find it in issue 150. So some songs might have just got completely dumped, even though they were in the top 10 the previous time. Not sure. I can't see Wasp in there. No. Anyway, kind of interesting. See how opinions change over time. Which is why it's interesting looking at these magazines. Oh, yeah, there's the chart from issue 1, which I think is like 1982, something like that, when Kerrang first came out. Little Steven. Classifieds. Yes, I mean, there's a lot of stuff here that, I mean, it's interesting, I suppose, but a lot of adverts. And sometimes these ads, classifieds, are quite interesting to read. I'll move through this part. Shrapnel was sometimes quite interesting. On news, but also, yeah, well-known bands and lesser-known bands, sort of profiled what they're up to, upcoming releases. You'd have bands like Sanctuary being talked about, but then also other, well, less known bands that are still looking for a deal uh, as well. Right. Tiger Tails. So something got stolen at one of their gigs. If you know, if you know anything about it, call Pepsi. Huh. All right, coming to the end now. Oh, a few more pages. Review for Guns N' Roses. So, gosh, times change, eh? They are playing the marquee. Not a big crowd. People in the crowd are throwing beer at Axel, and he's telling them to. Well, he's saying "fuck you, pussy" in return. Um, Appetite for Destruction, which I love, yet at the same time, it's sad they couldn't reproduce that rawness live. So, not getting a great review. TNT, I would like to see them live at that time back in the day. First couple of albums, lots of great songs. Um, all right, what do we got here? Oh yeah, single reviews. I always thought these were a bit. Sometimes they didn't really take it that seriously. Here's a review for Briar's Edge of a Broken Heart. Birmingham boys with a bleached young Freddie Mercury lookalike and commendable, if forgettable cover of an obscure Bon Jovi oldie. Here doo-wop harmonies. Sturdy commercial playing, nice, but goes right through you like an Indian takeaway. Yeah, that's the way they kind of did the single reviews. Um, yeah, I don't know, but yeah, that Bra, they were covering a Bon Jovi B side there. All right, yeah, for me, not as interesting as Metal Forces. It's good. Again, some issues are there's more interesting things on it in it than there are sometimes in other issues. Um, yeah, movies. I've heard of these guys, Mournblade. I had to look them up when I saw this. The lady is not in the band. I think she's just there. I don't know, for reasons that are hard to understand right now, but probably back in the day it made sense. Um, Actually, there's still the interview with Def Leppard to come as well. So that was the cover story. Pages, that's a great album. My favourite YNT album. Yeah, here we go. Stereo is possibly going to come in as the most expensive rock album ever recorded. Yes, because it was an album that took them a long time to make. It cost over £1 million to make. It's a lot of money. And in 1980s, it's definitely a lot of money. But in 1980s, you're probably making more money out of music than you are now. It's had lots of Rick Allen losing his arm, that would have helped things up quite a bit. Now the person writing this, they've heard the album, but it hasn't actually been officially released yet. They were given a tape, and then they had to return the tape after they'd listened to the album on the tape. And in the interview, he talks about the fact that they're going to have to sell 2 million copies of the album in order to break even because it's cost so much money. Well, they did manage to do that and more, so I think they'll be okay. All right, and that is it. Ends with a ad for a blank tape cassette. Yeah. All right. Well, hope you found that interesting. I'll catch you later.